Jawan was a film that I found myself increasingly interested in as it neared the release. I had watched the preview and the film genuinely caught my interest. I mean, what is going on? What's the plot? Why is SRK in multiple avatars? Are there multiple Shah Rukh Khans? Is he the same guy in different versions throughout different times? The trailer gave nothing away yet gave us enough to keep us invested. And it's also the year of Shah Rukh Khan's comeback with Pathan and now this, and it's also bound to create some interest. I am a huge fan of the actor and wanted to see the latest film in his new image as an action hero. Plus, this time he was being directed by a Tamil filmmaker with Tamil actors in the movie, and once positive reviews about the film from critics that I trust came out, I knew that I absolutely had to see this movie. And after having seen it, I can definitely say that yes, Jawan does live up to the hype. I had an absolute ball seeing this in the cinema. Now, if you want to know whether I like the movie, now you do, but I'm going to have to delve into spoilers to go in depth. So, this is a warning. So, if you haven't watched the film and care about getting spoiled, watch the movie and then return to this video. Alright, so let's get into it. Jawan surprisingly turned out to be a pretty political film. Azad is someone who's angered by the system and its corruption, and he makes his anger felt. He is someone who's genuinely affected, and we see it in his face. It's almost like a comeback of Bollywood's angry young man. We feel his frustration and the frustration of the several women who faced unending issues. And this movie is also as much about the women as it is about Shah Rukh Khan. A female prison is a pivotal location in the film because few of the women from prison are part of an elite strike force led by Azad. And honestly, this is a concept I personally have never really seen in a film before and one I find to be extremely creative. It also makes for a joke I loved where Vijay Sethupathe's character Kali says he wants to see these vigilantes in jail, and we cut to the women sneaking back to prison. The film really makes an impact with its point. It clearly states some of the many issues our country is facing and highlights how the people in power misuse it. There are 2 to 3 flashbacks where we see how and why the women ended up in prison, and I got worried whether the film would show flashbacks to everyone's past, but I'm glad that it didn't. Plus, it gives a sense that there are multiple other similar stories with each woman in that prison, and it gives us the sense of a lore that we needn't necessarily see to feel the impact of. Though I do feel like the film hits us in the head with its message, I also feel like that's the point the film is trying to make, that we have to be hit in the head to realize what's going on in the country and the multiple injustices taking place that we turn a blind eye towards. So, in that sense, the on the nose way of delivering its message does feel purposeful to some extent.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible.
Even in the end, Shah Rukh Khan goes on a full on rant about the power of a vote and how we hold that power and must use it responsibly. How we must question the ones in positions of power and how responsibly they use their power. Again, incredibly unsubtle, but it also somehow works, as it's as if Shah Rukh Khan is breaking the fourth wall and is talking to us, the people. Even the editing of the film is witty at times. In the opening scene of the film, Vikram Rathod, who has lost his memory, asks a kid who he is, and the film cuts to the title card of SRK. I'm super glad that Nayanthara was an actual character rather than a disposable love interest that disappears after the first half. She's a fully realized person with her own goals and relationships and is also super badass. The women in this film are given special importance. They're super capable, yet also have their own stories that fuel them to fight the injustice prevalent in the country. The action in the film, too, is great. That opening scene was just to preface what great things were to come. The use of speed ramping, wide shots, and handheld is all in service of making you feel the impact of each punch, kick, and gunshot. There can be a case made for overusing slow motion, but it just works. It's all exaggerated and unrealistic, sure, but never once is it presented in a stale manner. You know who is who and their spatial relationship to each other, so the action is never once confusing or disorienting. There's also multiple expertly choreographed hand-to-hand combat sequences, which the handheld camera work really complements. The film really feels like a grand epic. Plus, there's a lot of creativity in its presentation. Vikram Rathod gets off his bike in slow motion, throws a cigarette inside the tank, and charges it towards the bad guys. That was one of the most applaud-worthy sequences of the film. Speaking of which, I found myself cheering and clapping and screaming in so many scenes. I mean, hey, I'm a Shah Rukh Khan fan and he's in a mass movie. How can I not scream in pure euphoria? But it also just works because we care about the characters. The film spends the time to make us understand and feel for the characters. Shah Rukh Khan and his team of women. We get flashbacks to fill in on everything that happened, and it's really effective. The non-linear storytelling got me asking lots of questions with payoffs that were satisfying. For example, while the reveal of the second Shah Rukh Khan is shocking in and of itself, it's not something that appears out of the blue. We learned that it's been set up since the start, and even the timeline begins to make more sense once we learn the truth. The film is very cleverly written. Also, I just love how Indian this film is, with the dad of the main character being played by the same actor and getting revenge on your dad's killer. These are things that we have seen in multiple other films, but there's always a twist. For example, Azad's primary end goal isn't to kill Kali for revenge. The film doesn't become a cliched revenge drama in the second half. His mission is still to convey his important message to the people and change the system. Killing Kali is something that becomes a necessity when he arrives. And Azad does get revenge by killing Kali the exact same way his mother died, which was an immensely satisfying payoff. But this time, he is accompanied by his father, who also gets his revenge. I mean, the film is filled with satisfying moments like Vikram remembering his past that gets triggered by Kali's malfunctioning gun, father and son teaming up fighting against the bad guys when all the women unite and attack Sunil Grover. All these moments don't simply rely on the nostalgia of a superstar. That surely is an element that's ever present, but it also works because it serves as payoffs that are specific to the story and the characters that we care about. Also, Vikram Rathod, man, what a character. The salt and pepper look suits Shah Rukh Khan perfectly, and he's someone with character. The fact that he's always listening to music while performing death-defying missions is just so cool. His belt, oh man, he's just his own character with a unique and witty personality of his own. Plus, Vijay Sethupathi is brilliant as Kali. He plays a character with a nonchalant nature, which makes him intimidating and funny rather than him just trying to be scary, because it really feels like there's truly nothing that can faze this man. He's someone who misuses his power and influence and is exactly who and what Azad is fighting against. There is emotional conflict with his relationship to Vikram and Aishwarya, but he's still someone who has majorly negatively influenced the system that Azad is trying so hard to fix. And in that sense, the ideological conflict between protagonist and antagonist also works. Now, the film is far from perfect. Shah Rukh Khan's and Nayanthara's romance was just a little too hard to believe. She meets him for the first time, sees that her daughter trusts him, and then just marries him after one song. I would have liked to see more scenes with them as they learn more about each other and slowly fall in love. I wanted their romance to feel natural, but it felt extremely rushed. The film has time for nothing and no one. Even the whole conflict of Nayanthara marrying the very person she's trying to apprehend is a great idea that would make for solid scenes with suspense. Maybe there'd be moments where Azad would behave oddly and she would become more suspicious of him every time. I think she'd even injured him during a fight, and her seeing that scar on her husband is something that I genuinely thought would play out. But instead, the film doesn't explore any of this untapped potential because she finds out his identity on the very day of her marriage, which honestly, I was a little disappointed by. The film feels overly long in the second half. The songs are okay. I mean, I do listen to them daily and they're a bop, but they're not super memorable in my opinion. Though one thing I found interesting was how a character interrupts the Farata song that ends the song, making it something that happened in the diegetic world of the characters, because usually when characters appear in song, it's something that happens in the movie but is never actually mentioned in the story. But here the plot interrupts the song, and I found that to be pretty fascinating. And plus the themes of the film about injustice, which the film focused so heavily on in the first half, felt like it lost its steam in the second half, not including the climax. I feel like the film got extremely invested in the superstardom and the action that it should have focused a little more on the problems the film actually talks about. Though I had a blast with all the mass scenes, I feel like it shouldn't have been the primary focus. Also, because there's just so much plot stuff happening in the film that I felt like it hindered some of the emotional scenes. For example, when one of the girls dies, I wanted the grief of her death to linger, to really feel the loss of someone important to Azad, but instead the film instantly goes to focusing on the plot as if nothing ever happened, and it felt a little odd to me. Plus, the film isn't cohesive at times and it just feels like there's too much going on. But despite its very few shortcomings, Jawan is a film that most definitely works. And I'm super glad that it's making a shit ton of money and everyone's going to watch it. It's an extremely entertaining mass masala film with something to say, with something important to say. They really want to make a statement, a very loud statement. 2023 really has been a solid comeback year for The King, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.